Okay, guys, let's take a look at lesson one with chapter 5, percents and fractions. So the first thing at the top they're talking about is the students were asked to choose their favorite sport to play. So how can we display these results? It says for each sport, shade a 10 by 10 grid that represents the number of students that chose each sport. Well, first of all, you got basketball. You had 20 people. It said 3 out of 20 chose the sport. Well, ours is based on 100, right? So if we did, I'll move it over here. If we did 3 out of 20 people chose basketball, but we've got 100 grid, we've got to figure out how many squares or how many squares would that be on our grid. So is there any kind of relationship between 20 and 100? Well, I know that 20 times 5 is 100. So 3 times 5 is going to be 15. 15 over 100 is 15%. Okay? But they just want us to shade in, we would just need to shade in 15. So that would be 1 stick of 10 and then 5 more. Okay, now we got to go over here to football. Football is one of my favorite sports to watch. And I know that last night there was an exciting basketball game that was won in overtime. Yes, we had some excitement at the Baroque House last night. So we know that 25 goes into 100 4 times. So 25 times 4 is 100. So 3 times 4 would give you 12. So that tells me that I need to shade 12 out of the 100 squares. So that would be 1 stick of 10 plus 2 more. Okay. Yes, we have a dog that is not getting his attention right now. Just ignore him. Okay. Then we're going to go down to gymnastics. I know a lot of people are interested in gymnastics. So it said 1 out of 20. So we're going to have to set that up where it's in terms of 100. So we know 20 times 5 is 100. So 1 times 5 would be 5 over 100. So we can do, let me choose a different color. And so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that would be 5 of those squares would be shaded. Now, swimming, we have 9 out of 100. So we don't have to change that, do we? That was so nice of them. They just made it easy for us, didn't they? So we just need to shade 9 of those squares, okay? 9 of those squares. Okay, so it says, so we were able to shade our grid representing the number of students that chose their favorite sports, right? And then down here for part 2, it says what fraction with a denominator of 100 represents each sport. And we kind of did that up there, didn't we? So we'll go ahead and transfer that information down here. And for basketball, it was 15. For football was 12. Gymnastics was 5. And swimming was 9. Okay. And so one of the questions that we're trying to answer or trying to discover the answer to is, when is it better to use a fraction, a decimal, or a percent? So that's something that I want you to think about is when we're doing this whole lesson is, when is it better to use a fraction, a decimal, or a percent? Okay. Now, flipping to the next page. Okay. First key concept that we're going to look at is we're going to look at percents as fractions. So up here at the top, it says a percent is a ratio that compares a number to 100. 45% is 45 out of 100. It's written like that as your fraction. It's shaded like that as your model. And that is the percent sign. And I love, love, love the strip diagrams. And this is your strip diagram. And so it's divided into 10 parts. And they have 4 1/2 of another one to represent 45%. This is a very useful piece of information right there. So it says you can generate equivalent forms of fractions and percents to show equal parts to the same whole. To write a percent as a fraction